let's say you go, oh, man, that was so good last time. I think I'll use 3 times as much powder in my injection mix now, right? It's probably going to get too salty or overpower if you use too much.
But that's too much of the power. But what you were talking about with Cosmos was about the actual amount of fluid coming out. I assume we're like brisket.
Yeah, so if I was going to use a really strong one to penetrate deeper, I'd probably put in a little less when I inject. But as long as I'm using a ratio that's not going to be too salty, you can pump it full of as much as you want. Because once that thing is all blown up, it's just going to start to squirt out the ends. And we always see that when we're, like, I'll start injecting a brisket. He was talking about using beef consomme, which is salty on its own, too, right? So you're really kind of doubling down on that beefy saltiness. Once you start injecting kind of against the grain of that meat, all those little places where you're injecting blow up, and eventually it starts to shoot out the ends of the grain of meat. So you'll see it squirt out the end, and you'll go, okay, that's all for that spot. Let me move over here. So it's hard to over-inject because it's going to work its way out.
Now, if you're a person like me that likes a little bit of salt but not too much, what do you do? Just put more water in the combination of with the injection or the injection formula?
So let's talk about that for a second. So in general, a brine is salt, sugar, and water.
Okay.
And what that is doing, it's using osmosis and diffusion to create those elements that you want in your meat. So think about that for a second. Like if we're looking at, our brine, and osmosis is basically saying that those ions of salt and sugar can cross a cell wall, right? And then diffusion is saying that. Osmosis is saying that it wants to equalize inside to outside. So that's why if you take a solution that has a lot of salt and sugar in it, it's going to push into the cells because it wants to equalize between what is inside and outside the cell. So what's inside the cell has less salt and sugar in it, so it pulls that into the cell. Well, when it's doing that, it's taking that solution and bringing it in. So you're getting the moisture, whatever it is, water, juice, whatever, and then that salt and sugar. So you get those things into the meat, and that is 100% driven by how much you put in the solution. The more you put in, the bigger the uptake into the cells will be. And so if you want something that is not very salty, you're going to have to let it go longer because it's not going to have as much of that osmosis going, right?
I have a stupid question.
Yeah.
What if you're doing something small like chicken wings or something? Can you do a little injection into those before you...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So typically, and we haven't talked about this, but like I've got, my pork injection that we talk about on the show.
Sure.
I don't have the phosphates and stuff in it because I want to allow somebody to add those if they want it. So mine is really about flavor more than creating that additional texture to hold the moisture.
Right.
So if you just want to inject a chicken wing to get that flavor in it, you can just pull that out of the bottle and pump it right in.
And you get a little more moisture too, right?
Yeah. And you can do that with any seasoning that you like. You can add it to a little bit of low salt or no salt stock and just inject that, or even butter. With wings, I love to take butter, melt it, and then mix a little seasoning in and inject that right into the wing.
Thanks, Andy. And, of course, we want to thank our guest, Darian Cosmo Cos. Check out his website. Great products. Seriously, cosmosq.com. That's cosmosq.com. Next week, very excited to have our first ever NFL football player on the show, Mitchell Schwartz, who, by the way, has a Super Bowl ring. And we'll be talking to Mitchell next week. And, of course, be sure to check out Andy's Smoke on Wheels bootleg bourbon-infused barbecue sauce that you can get at All Things Barbecue. That's atbbq.com. For T-Bone, Andy Groner, and myself, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And as always, happy barbecuing.
Network show is archived and available through your favorite podcast platform each and every Thursday.
Build a grill, Holstein Manufacturing.
You have a better recipe for when you grill. Better ingredients, better cuts of meat, and because you're using a grill from Holstein Manufacturing, well, a better grill. You take grilling seriously, and at Holstein Manufacturing, we make a serious grill. Find your new grill now at HolsteinMFG.com.
We build a grill, protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Throwback. I remember.
Armani White. I'm stylish. Talk big t-shirt Billy fans. #1 hit music station. Kiss 104.7.
It's the most exciting sport in America, and it's on this Sunday. And it feels like heaven's so far away. An NFL doubleheader.
It's the NFL Conference Championships this Sunday. First at 2, the 49ers travel to Philly to take on the Eagles. Then at 5:30, the Chiefs and Bengals fight for the right to advance to Super Bowl 57. It all starts at 1 p.m. this Sunday.
Today will be cloudy and breezy with a high of 16. Tonight, clouds will remain, but the low will drop to 0. And tomorrow will be overcast all day, also with a high of 16 degrees. Weather this hour is being brought to you by Comfort Pro. Call about getting a whole home humidifier to keep that dry air out of your home all winter long. With My Town Media Weather, I'm Brian King.